In today's profile review, we are going to be reviewing a Silver 3 Zeri player who's currently averaging a 54% win rate, and they've started to deviate from their main champion and they're having a bit of success. So we're going to be breaking down how to develop and introduce new champions into your champion pool, what defines success. So like if you're unsure of like, oh, is my main champion or the champion I'm currently playing, is it good enough? Am I playing well enough to be able to win and climb in the long term? We're going to be breaking down all the stats you need to look at to have an objective health check, because all the time we get in our heads of like, this champion's strong, this champion's weak, when in reality, when I talk to players, I'm like, no, dude, you've got it wrong. Just because you lost 3 games in a row in your main doesn't mean it's a shit champ. It just means you've lost 3 games in a row and your mental is telling you that it's a weak champ. But in reality, stats don't lie, guys. Stats do not lie. So in today's profile review, we're going to be breaking all that down. Now, before we get into this video, if you're interested in getting your profile review just like the one you're about to watch, please check out the link in the YouTube description below. Let's get into it. So currently you are Silver 3. Last season you were Bronze 1. So firstly, congratulations. You've climbed what it looks like to your highest rank ever, which is really good. And you've played about 280 games this season and you're averaging a 50% win rate. Yet in your most recent 40 games, you're actually doing really well. 3% win rate higher than your average, which you might think, oh, that's not that significant. But when we're thinking about it in the fact that you're currently at your highest rank, but you've also got a higher than your average win rate, it generally suggests that you're not actually at your natural skill ceiling, which basically means you can probably climb higher than Silver 3. So firstly, if you have any doubts about like Silver 3 feels like my peak, I don't know if I can climb any higher than this, I think you can. And it might not be that much progress for the rest of this split just because you've played so many games in Silver. So the league MMR system, without going into too much detail, when you play 280 games and you go from Bronze 1 to Bronze 3, the league system basically thinks, okay, this player should be about Silver 3 because they've played 280 games, they've got a 50% win rate, so we're going to keep them here until they can really prove that they're much better than this current rank, which you're starting to do with that 3% higher than 50% win rate. But your MMR is pretty set in stone now. You could be able to get to Silver 2, maybe even Silver 1 by the end of the split, but Gold is really going to be like a next split goal as well as like Platinum. So the first thing is it's not going to be impossible to get to Gold or Platinum. You can definitely do it. You have the potential. It's just about what journey or what strategy you decide to take to get there, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So there's a few things I want to cover. Now, the first one is your champion pool, and I think you've actually got quite a interesting champion pool here where you've been playing a bit of Seraphine lately and having a lot of success. And even though you've only played like 5 games of Seraphine this season, and you've recently picked her up, I really feel like she could be a great pick for you. I think she's really strong in the current meta, whether you play her as mid lane, AD carry, or bot lane. And I think it's great because when you queue up bot lane, it's quite a popular role. So you're going to get auto-filled a lot, particularly to support sometimes mid. So I think if you're queuing up, if AD carry is the role you really want to play, and again, it doesn't actually matter which role you choose. So if you're thinking, oh, is AD carry better to climb, or is support better to climb, or is mid lane better to climb? It doesn't actually matter which one is better on paper to climb. What matters is which one do you enjoy the most and which one do you feel like you can climb the most on based on the champions you can play in that role. And so the cool thing about Seraphine is she's flex. And so what I'd say is it looks like AD carry is your most comfortable role. So I'm just going to go with this profile view assuming that you're queuing up primary AD carry. And with that, this is going back to that strategy of what I talked about is I would always recommend you queue up primary AD carry and secondary support. And that way you can always play your Seraphine safely and you're not going to get filled into jungle or top lane very often. But the downside is you won't get filled into mid lane. But what I really want you to do is just focus on your bot and support, or, focus on your bot and mid. Whichever is your primary and secondary, just always queue up in the exact same order. That's the first thing. The second thing is I think your champ pool should be some kind of combination of I want to keep seeing you play Zeri. I think with the new items, she is a bit different, but I still think she's strong. And given that you have such a good win rate on her, 54% over 158 games, I think you're going to be really good on her. And I can see even in your last 40 games, you've got a 64% win rate on her in your last 14 games, which is really good. It's just a sign that you're getting better and better on her. So what I'd like to see is you continue to play your Zeri, and I would like to see more of this Seraphine. So I would almost consider, if you were trying to get to gold in the fastest amount of time possible, or climb in the fastest way possible, or like develop champion mastery even in the fastest way possible, I would just suggest two-tricking Zeri and Seraphine, because one, Seraphine can be played if Zeri's banned, picked, or you need AP in your comp. You can just play Seraphine as an AD carry, like, you know, bot lane, not AD carry, obviously. Two, if you get autofilled, you just play Seraphine. And then, you know, you've got your Lux or whatever if you get autofilled. But I really recommend just really narrowing down your champion pool so you can focus on champion mastery. Because the thing with gold, plat, and diamond is a lot of players are one-tricking, two-tricking, or three-tricking. And so if we're trying to go against the meta in terms of we have a champion pool of 5 champions, well, the player who is just learning 1 champion or 2 champions or 3 champions, they're going to be able to play that champion at a higher level faster because they are focusing more of their attention, efforts, and training on that 1 champion, whereas you're splitting it between 5. And so that's why I recommend generally a maximum pool of 3 champions, because players get bored, right? People want to enjoy League, and, you know, 1 tricking, 2 tricking can get a bit boring. But there's also another solution which a lot of players find useful, and it's what I find useful for long-term success and being able to preserve my MMR and get a really high win rate, is I have 1 account for climbing and 1 account for learning and having fun. So when I'm feeling good, when I'm ready to play League, when I'm like feeling really confident in myself, I go on my main account and I play my highest win rate champion. So for you in this example, it would be your Zeri and your Seraphine. And then maybe after 1 or 2 games, you're like, oh shit, I don't feel like I'm playing that well today. Or you're getting a bit anxious. You're like, oh fuck, I've lost a bit of LP. I'm a little bit worried to queue up again. Cool. Stop playing on your main and you jump to your second account, which is your learning / having fun account. And this is partly to do with a few things. 1, it preserves your MMR. It means you're not playing when you're not confident or you're tilted or you're anxious on your main, because all those things reduce your chances of winning games, which we never want. We always want to be playing on our main account when we're in the best mood and we have the best chance of winning. That's why champion pool is so important and your mentality is so important. So we have this second account for when we're feeling anxious, when we're tilted, when we've lost a couple of games in a row and we've lost our confidence. Or when you want to have a bit of fun with some friends, or you want to learn, you know, you've got 50 games on Miss Fortune, but she's at a 48% win rate. So I wouldn't recommend playing her on your main, but you're like, I think Miss Fortune's good. I really think there's potential there and I have fun playing her. Cool. Bring her to your second account, learn her, get better at her. And once you get at least a 55% win rate on her, then bring her back to your main. And there you go. You've got your 3 champion pool. You've got your Seraphine, you've got your Zeri, and you've got your Miss Fortune. Perfect. And you can rinse and repeat that. Oh, I really like Zyra at the moment. Cool. I'm going to learn her on my second account while I'm still climbing on my main account with my Seraphine and my Zeri, but I'm going to learn Zyra on the side until I develop her up to a level of my Zeri or Seraphine, and then bring her over to your main. And that's how you should build your champion pool, and that's how you should look at long-term mastery and introducing new champions to your account that you're trying to get to the highest rank. The next thing I want to talk about is duo queuing, and I see you do duo queue a bit, which is great. I mean, you're averaging a 54% win rate with your duo queue, which is good. Anything lower than 54%, I would start suggesting you guys either need to get some coaching together. So like a duo queue session where a coach comes on and looks at your comms, looks at your strategy, and looks at how you play together, your synergy, and gives you recommendations on how to play better together. I'd look at that. I'd also just think about, well, is this player growing at the same level as I am? You know, they're a good friend, but they're starting to fall a bit behind in League. Maybe they're just busier in life or whatever, or maybe I just, you know, play with them for fun. Again, if it's that kind of relationship, what I'd suggest is taking that player to your secondary account and just duo queuing with them there. But you've got a 54% win rate on them, with them in your last like 13 or so games, so I don't think that's too much of a problem. But just keep an eye on this, because if this drops below 54%, so 53, 52, 51, 50, anything below that, you really got to reconsider duo queuing with that player, because this account should be your account where you're trying to get the most wins as possible and the highest chance of winning each game. And if you've got a duo queue who's not getting you more than 54% of wins when you play with them, they're just not the right call for an account that wants to climb. And again, you might be like, well, I still want to play with them, or it's not possible not to play with them because they're like my boyfriend, or you're in a relationship or friendship, or they're your best friend and you don't have the heart to be like, no, I don't want to play with you anymore. Those circumstances are absolutely understandable, and you can still play with them on this account. Just understand that your ability to climb, particularly if this win rate goes below 54%, is going to be a little bit lower. The next thing I want to talk about is your laning phase. You have a really good laning phase in your bot lane. I can't see your stats for your mid lane or your support, but your bot lane stats are really good. And this is why I keep saying you should have your primary role as AD carry. Zeri, averaging 500, over 500 gold at 15 minutes is insane. That's almost 2 kills on average in laning phase for a champion that isn't known for a strong laning phase. So it's really good. Usually Zeris get, 100, 150 gold leads just through really good CS. But the fact that you're averaging plus 500 makes me think that you're very good on Zeri, you're very confident, and you know how to beat your opponents of similar or slightly below skill level, which I would say they are, consistently, which is really important. That's really good, because if you can do it now, you can do it in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, and you have room to grow, which is a really good thing. So keep that up. Make sure you're continuing to do what you're doing in laning phase and you're honing it. Make sure you get a little bit smarter. Maybe try die less. Maybe try get more CS. But make sure you're still generating that 500 gold lead, because that's really good. The next thing I want to talk about is damage dealt. On average, again, with your Zeri, I'm just going to use her as the highlight because she's one of your most played champions. You're dealing on average every minute 110 more than the enemy AD carry, which is really important because over a 28-minute game, which is the average, you're dealing like 2.9k more damage than them. And that's every game. Now, you might think, 2.9k HP, that's not that much. That's not even a champion kill. But the fact that you're having more influence, you're dealing more damage than the average enemy AD carry that you're versing and you're playing with is a really good sign. One, because it suggests you're still better than the AD carries you're playing in against, which is great because that means you're going to climb. But 2, it also means that you know how to deal more damage, you know how to have more of a presence in team fights, and you know how to be more influential in terms of winning games. And yes, damage dealt isn't everything, but it's just a general sign that you're doing things right. You're getting into team fights at the right time. You're positioning correctly. You're not dying too early. You're dealing enough damage. You've got the items to deal the damage, etc., etc. So that's really good. Keep that up. Next thing I want to talk about is your deaths. Now, this is a slightly negative one because you are dying a little bit too often. You do have a 6.9 average death in bot lane in your last 40. It's gone down to 6.2, which actually is really a really good sign because you're naturally dying less, which means a few things. You're probably getting more confident. You probably understand your trades, like, do I win this? Do I lose this? Just through test, like trial and error, really. And then the third one is, you're probably developing more champion mastery. So you're just more comfortable. You know the situations. You can almost predict the future and be like, I'm going to die if I do this, or I can't risk this trade because I don't know where the enemy jungler is. They could gank me, etc., which is all really good, but you still want to get this a little bit lower. So generally, I recommend for silver 80 carries who are wanting to get to gold, platinum, try and get this death rate down to about 5.5. Use that as your ultimate goal. And as long as you're hovering around 5.5, you're still dealing the same amount of damage, you're still earning the same amount of income, and you've still got the same kill participation, you're on the right track. The final thing I want to talk about is your kill participation, which is, again, really good. Usually I see AD carry players in silver, they generally have like a 40 to 45% kill participation, which just means they're not doing their role properly. AD carry, it's in the title. You need to be the carry, and therefore you need to be in fights to deal damage, to win the team fights, and to be a person that actually influences their solo queue games. Because to be a solo queue player and to climb in the long term, you need to make sure that as an individual you're having impact and you're not just relying on your teammates to win games. So keep up your kill participation, make sure you're always rotating to objectives, make sure you're always there for team fights, which I know you're pretty much doing very close to perfect. Like generally 55% to 60% is perfect, but that is really hard to do in silver because the games are so chaotic and unpredictable, and you never know, when my team's going to go for a fight when you're not there, etc., etc. So that's really, really good. Now, overall, I think you have a lot of potential here. I would suggest attending our weekly boot camps, which you're already going to be doing. I think keep playing your Zeri, master your Seraphine, and use that 2 ranked account strategy to learn new champions, to have fun, and to play League when you're just not feeling the best, but you still want to play and queue up. Use that second account. And yeah, please, once you watch this, reach out to me with any questions, any thoughts you have. If you're interested in getting some coaching, whether it's with one-on-one through your own gameplay, or you're wanting to do a duo queue review session, please let me know and I can get you in touch with one of our coaches. Our 80 carry specialist coach I think would be best for you, but it also depends on your budget. We have other coaches available as well. So please let me know once you've watched this, and as always, cheers, good luck on the Rift, and you've got a lot of potential here. I'm keen to see you climb. Thanks.